Connell.
All right, talk more, Cheryl, about this now with Gerry Baker, the host of the brand new Fox Business Network show, WSJ at Large with Gerry Baker. That's a good name for it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Connor.
Good to see you. We'll talk more about that in a moment and the launch of it on Friday evening. But you were listening to what Deirdre said there, and I'm sure saw the tweet from the president this afternoon. What do you make of this on threatening to cut the subsidies?
Well, as with a lot of the things that President Trump does, it gets a lot of attention. It's sort of government by tweet, as it were. It's not sure exactly, as Deirdre said, what exactly the substance could be here. What are the scale of the subsidies that General Motors gets? I'm sure there are some. Or indeed whether or not the government can just by its own decision just end them. Look, I think a lot of people will share the president's view that there's this sentiment that GM was bailed out by the government, by the taxpayer, almost 10 years ago, literally from going back. It went into bankruptcy and required a lot of government support to get it out. There are a lot of jobs that are dependent, in many states, in many important states in the Midwest and elsewhere, on GM. And so when GM makes a big announcement like this, that it's restructuring and it's doing that, a lot of people say, hey, why? Well, can we do something about it? So I think there's a kind of a knee-jerk reaction from the president to say we do something. It's not really clear whether it's actually.
I get all the politics on this. What about the economics? What was your view on General Motors' actual announcement? When they cut jobs, they're closing plants. What does that say about a slowdown that might be coming next year and beyond in the U.S. economy?
I'm not sure that it speaks necessarily about a broad economic slowdown, although I think clearly the economy is slowing down from the kind of torrid pace that we've seen for much of 2018. I think we can expect slower growth next year. I think it's more specific to General Motors and some of the challenges that they face, some of the lines, some of the sedan line in particular that they've had that haven't been very successful. Look, they've made great strides since coming out of bankruptcy 10 years ago, but they're still in a very challenging environment. It's still a very competitive business. They are dealing with, relatively high costs here in the United States, relatively low costs elsewhere. As the president noticed, they're not closing factories in China or Mexico. So they're still grappling with these challenges in a very competitive market.
I want to get your views on trade ahead of G20 before we let you go, Gerry. The president will be meeting with a number of world leaders starting on Friday and continuing throughout the weekend in Argentina. The big one, though, is his sit-down over dinner, apparently, with Xi Jinping, the president of China. Larry Kudlow, his top economic advisor today, saying there's a, quote, good possibility we'll see a deal. Here he is.
In his view, there's a good possibility that a deal can be made, and that he is open to that.
I think that's what turned the market around today. But in his next breath, he said, only if he meets just about every demand that China probably will not meet. What are you actually expecting this weekend? What's realistic?
Well, I think Larry Kudlow, God bless him, the body language there wasn't exactly very persuasive, was it? It was as though he was reading a sort of a hostage statement prepared for him by somebody else.
Well, maybe he's trying to convince his boss to cut a deal.
Look, of course, he is. We know that for sure. Larry Kudlow speaks very highly of the importance of global trade and the importance of trade agreements and free trade. And we know from everything that Larry has said and done over the last few years that he's not a fan of tariffs. Look, you can never rule out with President Trump. President Trump likes to do deals. It's how he's done business. It's how he's been successful in his life. It's been successful in policy. It's worked even since he's become president. He did a deal on NAFTA when having said it's the worst thing we could ever have, we're never going to do a deal on NAFTA. He did a deal on NAFTA. He did a deal with South Korea to renegotiate that trade arrangement. He's looking at the possibility of a big major nuclear deal with North Korea. So he likes to do deals. So as tough as the negotiating position has been, you can't rule out the possibility that they sit down for dinner on Saturday in Buenos Aires and President Xi says a few things and makes some nice noises and the president says, you know what, I'll take it, I'll get a deal. It doesn't look very likely because China has got so much that it needs to do, I think, in most people's eyes, to move in a way that China's not prepared to. But you can never quite rule out with this president that he might just decide that he wants to take that.
Thank you, Gerry. Good to see you. I want to tell everybody to watch Gerry's show when it premieres, the first ever show, WSJ at Large, with Gerry Baker's this Friday evening. Big-time economic guest, 9:30 Eastern Time here on FBN. Larry Summers will be your first guest. Good luck with that.
Thank you very much.
I'll be watching, of course.